The ongoing migrant crisis across the country impacting non-border states like Illinois, and Governor J.B. Pritzker says that migrants in Illinois from the southern U.S. border are here legally seeking asylum, and saying that he's not going to move those individuals that are transported from the southern U.S. border to Chicago. He's not going to transfer them to other places throughout the state. He was asked about this at an unrelated news conference yesterday, and I think it's interesting to hear what his comments are on this issue as the taxpayer cost continues to balloon with not just the costs for housing and food and other services, but also you've got the growing taxpayer costs from non-citizen health care that taxpayers subsidize. So where are we at in all of this? Welcome back, Bishop on Air. I'm Greg Bishop. Thanks for hanging out. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Let's hear from Governor J.B. Pritzker about this question he was asked yesterday at an unrelated news conference in Peoria, where he was advocating for a change to state-regulated insurance plans. And that's another story entirely, as that measure passed the House late Thursday night. It's now going to go into the Senate, and it's a big issue that the governor has on his agenda for this year. Getting rid of things like step therapy and prior authorization and things like that. But the governor was asked off topic about Illinois being a sanctuary state, and he didn't really like that term being used for some reason. Here's what the governor had to say.
I don't think I've ever used that language, and you can go back and 6 years, 5.25 years in office. And when I ran, but if I have, forgive if it would be once perhaps. The truth is that the Trust Act, which is a law that went into effect before I became governor, signed by the prior governor, is what's in place in Illinois. And essentially the idea here is that someone who is living here, who's been undocumented and may have been here for years, getting pulled over because they were speeding should not be a reason to now pull somebody out of their car, arrest them, and send them to ICE at the federal level and have them deported. That oftentimes people are living here not just peacefully but productively, and that over time people have applied for and gotten permanent residency or citizenship. We should have a system like that, once again, by the way, that people can apply for, go through a process, and it's not a very good one as it is. We need comprehensive immigration reform. But I believe that that's a law that's been good for Illinois, the Trust Act. Now, one other comment I would make, there's a lot of hysteria that's going around about the fact that we have legal asylum seekers. They have papers, they're here legally in this country while they get a hearing, while they wait for a hearing, and that we're trying to provide them, those who don't have work authorization, and we're trying to get more work authorizations for them because there are jobs available in Illinois for them, but we're just trying to provide them with some basic humanitarian care. And we've done that, I believe. I've seen the hysteria on Facebook, and gets promoted sometimes about that busloads of people are being shipped from Chicago to some other place in Illinois. That's not happening. It hasn't happened. It's not going to happen. We are receiving busloads of people from the state of Texas without any prior notice of their arrival, sometimes in the middle of the night. Why do they do that? Because they want to cause chaos. We have managed to rein it in so that it's not chaos. And indeed, our goal here is to help people get to their hearings, to get determined whether they actually can have legal asylum and stay in the United States or be deported by that hearing. But it's our job, I believe, to act in a humanitarian fashion. It's what Illinois, I believe, stands for. It's who we are as Illinoisans, and we will care for them. We believe that comprehensive border security as well as immigration reform will help us manage this in years going forward. But we're going to do everything we can right now.
So the governor, again, downplaying what he says is the hysteria that's shared on social media of people worried that these migrants are going to be moved out of Chicago into other places throughout Illinois. I mean, that's something that even Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson had pushed for in previous statements. But a couple of things there you can hear people push back on, and that is the idea that these all are asylum seekers. You've even got people like, former Border Patrol official Tom Homan, in an exchange that he had with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez about this issue, and whether or not these quote unquote asylum seekers are going through legal ports of entry or if they're just crossing the border illegally, and whether or not they should be treated as asylum seekers if they're not going through those ports of entry. Is it safe to say that all those individuals in Chicago from the southern U.S. border are here as asylum seekers? The governor, as you heard, kind of spells that out in his thoughts that indeed they are all asylum seekers. But I would imagine you've got people who say, well, prove it. See all their documents. Let's see exactly how they crossed the border and whether or not their asylum request is legitimate, rather than just being given a card to say I fear my life and livelihood and need to get out of my country and move to a safer place. Those types of questions still looming, but you've got the overall cost of this to the taxpayers, and people in Chicago are very upset about feeling like they are being pushed to the side with resources going to the migrants. And we're talking about substantial resources, close to $700 million in taxpayer-subsidized health care coverage for non-citizens. You've got at least $1 billion or so that has already been paid by state and city taxpayers in direct services to the migrants. You've also got another supplemental that's going to be coming. The city of Chicago approving $70 million, I believe, and the state's already saying they're going to offer up $180 million. In Cook County, another $70 million. So all of this stacking up, and the governor being asked about sanctuary state status. And he says, listen, this is really just an effort to not comply with federal immigration law. If there's somebody in this country that's undocumented and they don't have any other criminal charges against them, then they can't be, the state and local law enforcement are prohibited from assisting federal immigration officials from detaining these individuals and helping to deport them. But then you get into the conversation, which is a much deeper dive about the electoral process. And while some are worried that, undocumented citizens are going to try to vote, they can already vote in city school council races in Chicago. It's prohibited that they cannot vote in federal elections, but there are concerns some have of the mail-in voting prospects and people ineligible to vote getting their hands on some of those mail-in ballots. So that's a concern people have. But it goes even further than that. The apportionment every 10 years with the U.S. Census. This was a big fight before the 2020 census, where you remember former President Donald Trump, he wanted to make sure there was a citizenship question on the census, and that went through the courts, and they ultimately blocked that question. But when it comes to apportionment, you can boost the congressional apportionment in states like Illinois or California or New York if you have more people living there, citizen or not. So in a state like Illinois that has lost congressional seats because of a decade of population decline, I mean, we've lost, like a dozen seats or something in the past 25 years or so because of declining population in the state of Illinois. Well, if you have a influx of tens of thousands of people who, quote unquote, are seeking asylum, then you have another census come around. Those numbers are going to boost the census numbers in a state like Illinois, thereby giving that state more congressional representation and, in effect, more sway in the Electoral College. 'Cause right now we have 19 electoral votes, 17 congressional seats, and 2 senators. So 19 electoral votes in the state of Illinois. If 10 years from now, with the new census, we get a few more because of the tens of thousands of non-citizens in the state being counted for apportionments, then you can boost those numbers and have more sway in the Electoral College. So that's, again, another deeper conversation that we really have yet to see hashed out or even have the governor asked about. So, again, something else to really consider in this overall conversation when it comes to how exactly the migrant situation is impacting the state of Illinois, taxpayers, and beyond. So we'll watch that space, as always, here with Bishop on Air. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Appreciate you guys being here each and every weekday morning.